게스트분들을 무대 위로 모시도록 하겠습니다. 네, 제일 먼저 모더레이터이신 박두신 프로그래머께서 간단한 인사 말씀 해주시고 그 다음에 게스트분들의 인사말과 작품 소개를 듣도록 하겠습니다.
예, 안녕하세요. 오늘 사회를 맡은 부산국제영화제 프로그래머 박도신이라고 합니다. 오늘 이렇게 많이 와주셔서 진짜 감사드리고요. 사실 제가 이제 뭐 작품 소개 멘트를 좀 준비를 했는데 지금 이렇게 와서 보니까 굳이 그럴 필요는 없을 것 같아서 먼저 저희 이제 감독님부터 해가지고 여러분들께 인사 말씀으로 시작을 하고 그 다음에 바로 질의응답 받도록 하겠습니다. 저 감독님, 저 기자분들한테 인사 말씀 먼저 좀 부탁드리겠습니다. 감독님부터 first.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for having us. I'm very excited to be here. I've never been to Korea before. It's one of the true privileges of my job that I get to travel and I get to go to places and I get to places I've always wanted to go to, and that I get to go to them when exciting things like Busan Film Festival is happening. I have known about this film festival for a long time and have wanted to come here for a long time, and now I'm here, so I'm very happy. Thank you.
그러면 저희 그 조엘 에저튼 씨 그 다음으로 인사 말씀 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
I'm very excited to be here too. I think all of these guys know on this panel, and most of my friends know that I'm a little bit obsessed with Korean cinema. And I've never been to South Korea before. But your directors, Director Park and Director Bong and Director Na, I know these guys have worked with Director Bong, are people that are very high up on my list of great directors, and I've devoured all of their movies. So I was very curious to come to the place where the country where these people are from, these guys are from, and where that work is created. And we're just really happy to be invited to a really excellent, massive film festival, and excited to show the film to thousands of people, which we never get to do in one sitting. So thank you.
조엘 에저튼 씨 같은 경우에는 혹시 모르실까봐 이 작품의 감독님과 함께 그 시나리오를 공동 집필하셨습니다. 다음에 저희 그 티모시 살람의 인사 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
I'm so deeply grateful to be here in Korea. Thank you for having us. I've wanted to come here for many years now. As Joel said, I'm also a big fan of Korean cinema. I also remember watching the World Cup, which was here in 2002. So I'm very happy to be here. I've been wanting to come for a number of years, like I said. And it's all the better that I get to be here with a movie that we're extremely proud of. We all worked on extremely hard. You guys will think of it what you may, but I can promise you the good intent was there to make a great film. And thank you for having us.
오늘 또 저희 이 더 킹 헨리 5세 제작사인 플랜 B에서 공동 대표분들이 또 제작자의 입장으로서 오늘 또 참석하셨습니다. 먼저 디디 가드너부터 인사 말씀 제가 부탁드려도 될까요?
Oh, sure. Just to echo what everyone said, we're really honored to be here. We had the great fortune of actually shooting a movie in Korea with Okja, and we love it here. So we'll take any excuse we can get to come back. And we're really grateful that you are screening the film, and we can't wait to see it.
감사합니다. 그럼 마지막으로 우리 클라이너 씨, 예, 인사 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Just again to express our gratitude for welcoming the King to this incredible festival. As my partner Didi said, we had the incredible privilege of making a film mostly in Korea with director Bong, shooting in Seoul, in Daejeon, in Gwangju, but this is our first time in Busan, and it feels very fitting that David's incredible film, co-written and co-produced by Joel and David and our company with Timothy, would be here. We're so proud of the film and hopeful that it resonates with you as it does with us.
예. 이 더킹 헨리 옷에는 저희 그 초청작 발표 기자회견 했을 때서부터 좀 굉장히 많은 관심을 보여주셨고, 이게 저희가 그 갈라 프레젠테이션이지만 야외 상영관에서 틀기로 결정을 했었는데, 이것도 지금 한 2분도 안 돼서 다 매진이 돼서 많은 화제가 됐었던 작품입니다. 오늘 그 이렇게 와주셔서 감사드리고, 또 오늘 이렇게 자리를 마련해 줄 수 있도록 도와주셨던 넷플릭스 코리아 분들한테도 이 자리에 빌어서 예, 감사드리고 싶습니다. 예, 그러면 저희 그 바로 질의응답 하실 거 많을 것 같은데 바로 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 질문 있으신 분은 손 들어주시면 저희가 마이크 갖다 드리겠습니다. 예, 저분이 좀 빠르셨네요.
Hello. Hi. Mike Payne-Wheeler, BFM Radio. This is a Netflix movie, and you know the traditional experience of movies is the big screen experience. And so, I suppose, is there a different sort of feeling that comes with having a movie that comes out either on Netflix with maybe a limited theatrical release or a release that is just on the festival circuit? I suppose. How does it sort of? What's the difference in feeling between a major theatrical release and something on Netflix, as far as the end result and release are concerned? And that's for anyone involved.
Thank you for your question. I've made 2 films with Netflix now, and I have loved it for one particular reason, which is that they are making the kinds of movies that I love. You know, movies, as we all know, are not cheap to make, and especially when you want to make movies on, you know, on a big scale about big things. And The King is definitely that. You know, this was a movie that was never going to be cheap to make. It was incredibly difficult to make. But Netflix gave us the resources and the freedom that we needed in order to make it properly. I'm also I really love the way this movie is being released. You know, I think, you know, we're getting that beautiful sense of an event that you get from, you know, having like very exciting festival screenings like this one that we're having in Busan. We're having limited theatrical releases in various places. I think we're still working out what's happening in Korea, but I like doing it that way. I like keeping the theatrical release curated, you know. I like that I don't feel like I am sacrificing myself at the altar of the box office. If people want to go and see the movie on the big screen, they can do that. But, you know, my TV at home is amazing, you know. And I love watching things at home. I loved when we were finishing the movie. My favorite version of it almost was the HDR version with the stereo sound on an amazing TV. you know, so who knows what the future looks like? I'm just glad that there are companies like Netflix making the movies that I love.
다른 분 그 question 답하실 분 없으신가요? 오케이, 그러면 다음 분 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 아까 저 뒤에 저.
Hi, this is Christian from Korea Times. This question is director David Shaw. Why Shakespeare? I think the young generation has not much interest in Shakespeare, but I was surprised. And second question will be Timothy. How was chicken? Did you expect this film start your new chapter in your film career? And what do you expect your career changes?
Shakespeare. Well, I mean, Shakespeare for us was a starting point. Joel, over there, he played Hal, Timmy's character, on stage in the Shakespeare productions of Henry IV, Parts 1 and 2, and Henry V, when he was fresh out of drama school. And it was a much talked about performance. And so when Joel came to me with the idea of doing some form of an adaptation of Henry V, that's where we started. But very quickly we made the decision to push Shakespeare to the side and to build a story of our own, taking some pieces from Shakespeare, taking stuff from the deep research that we did, and also just making stuff up because it felt like the right thing to do. But I think one of the things that is powerful about Shakespeare, even just as a starting point for us, is that I think it is it is testament to the power of his writing that so much of it, even though it is so old, feels relevant today. I think that is clear evidence of powerful storytelling.
So I think the first question was about chicken, and that was the best fried chicken I've ever had in my life. And we got one person to thank for that. Her name's Christina. She's right back there. You're just gonna, no, you know what? You don't want to. Okay. I did not anticipate this kind of welcome in Korea. It's deeply gratifying. I'm super grateful to be here. I cannot wait for this screening tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope it goes well. I hope it'll go over well. And as far as a new chapter in my career, I don't know what chapter I'm on. I don't really know where I am. I try to work on things that are challenging, things that are scary. To do Shakespeare, to be an American playing an English king, felt properly intimidating. I had worked on material that was very different than this. Very, very grateful to Jeremy Kleiner and Dee Gardner, who had put me in a film called Beautiful Boy, and that dealt with very different subject matter, dealt with addiction. And I kind of leapt at the opportunity to jump back in a project with them, but mainly I wanted to work with David and Joel. And I'm a big fan of David Michaux's movie Animal Kingdom and The Rover and War Machine, but particularly the first two, I felt I could see the arcs of these men in a way that I never envisioned I'd play a role like that, or at least this soon. And I wanted to leap at the opportunity, and then to have the opportunity to bring it around the world. We were in Venice, in Italy. We were in London, in England. Now we're in Busan, in Korea. We'll go to Australia, where David and Joel are from after this. That's like a dream come true when you want to be an actor when you're a young kid. That's the kind of stuff you dream about. So I feel like I'm on a bit of a wild ride, but I'm enjoying it. and I'm happy to be here.
네, 다음 질문. 예, 다음 질문 하실 분. 예, 여기 아까 바로 옆에 분 계속 손 드신 것 같거든요.
예, 영화 잘 봤습니다. 티모시 샬라메에게 질문 드리고 싶은데요. 아까 잠깐 말씀하시기는 하셨지만 미국인 배우로서 영국의 왕을 연기한다는 것 자체가 특별한 경험이었을 것 같은데요. 어땠는지 말씀 여쭙고 싶고요. 감독님께도 그 역할에 티모시 샬라메를 캐스팅한 가장 중요한 이유가 무엇이었는지 듣고 싶습니다.
So it makes me think I went to a drama high school in New York. That's where I spent, from the ages of 13 to 17 years old. I went to a school called LaGuardia High School in New York, and had a lot of excellent teachers there. One of the things they instilled, one of the pieces of wisdom they wanted every student to learn was to chase the roles that were daunting in as much as the roles that were more in your wheelhouse or more comfortable. And so to that point, I figured as an American, to play an English king and a figure of reverence, I wanted to aspire to that. I didn't want to, it wasn't to necessarily, I wanted to do it justice in a new way. The other question alluded to Shakespeare, and that was the other exciting thing about this, the excellent writing of Joel Edgerton and David you showed. I was excited that a younger or any generation could see this kind of material and not have to cross a bridge to understand it the way I love Shakespeare and I love Shakespeare productions, but this is not that. This is an adaptation. And I hope that answers it in some way.
I cast Timmy in the film because he's a really, really good actor. I saw, like everybody else, I saw Call Me By Your Name and loved that movie. I loved his performance in it. And I am just grateful that right at the very time that, Joel and Jeremy and Dee Dee and I were looking for someone to play Hal, it was about the time that Call Me By Your Name came out. And it was so exciting to see a young actor who felt soulful. They're very rare, I think. And a tiny part of me actually liked the fact that for me too, I knew that it wasn't an obvious choice for him. It was, I like finding challenging things for great actors to do. It's not satisfying for me to cast an actor to perform a role that they've performed 100 times before. The danger, obviously, with this one was that the character is very different from Timmy, and Timmy is young, but I could tell even from his work in Call Me By Your Name, what I knew about him, what I learned about him when I met him, that all of the work we would need to do to create this character, he was more than capable of. It was very exciting for me and I'm just happy that I didn't try to make the movie 2 years ago because I wouldn't have even known Timmy existed.
예, 다음 질문 해주시고 이번에는 이쪽으로 한번 넘어갈게요. 저기 계속 손 들고 계시던 분. 예.
네, 연합뉴스 TV 박효정입니다. 질문 두 가지 있는데요. 일단 티모시 샬라메 배우한테는 이게 왕국의 탕하에서 진짜 왕이 돼가는 과정을 연기해야만 했고, 네, 어려운 연기라고 말씀하셨는데요. 이런 인물의 섬세한 변화 과정을 그러니까 연기하면서 가장 주안점을 두고 집중했던 게 어떤 게 있는지 질문 드리고요. 그다음에 두 번째 질문은 감독님이나 같이 각본 쓰신 조엘 에저턴에서 말씀해 주셔도 괜찮은데요. 15세기의 어떤 유럽의 전쟁상을 신화적이나 이미지로 그리지 않고 굉장히 좀 리얼리티를 살린 부분이 인상적이었거든요. 전쟁에서 몸으로 싸운다거나 좀 흙탕물을 표현한 거는 이런 것들. 그래서 이런 15세기를 보증하는 데 있어서 어떤 뭐 리서치나 작업을 거쳤는지 궁금합니다.
I don't know if there was a main thing that I was trying to keep in mind in the performance, but one of the things that attracted me deeply about the role is independent of any sort of royal allegory, independent of the fact that Hal is a prince at the beginning of the movie and is a king by the end. I felt it was a universally relatable circumstance for people in their youth, where your environment, your situation is pressurizing, and you don't know how to deal with it. You don't have the skill set mentally, socially, to be able to deal with the circumstance that's been thrown at you. And that, through the lens of the 15th century, through the lens of the great Shakespeare works, I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity I want to jump at. And as far as something I was keeping in mind, just try to stay as close as possible to David, and you go scene by scene. It's like chipping away at something. You build it block by block, and just follow David's guidance and David's direction.
The Battle of Agincourt. There's something really interesting about the battle, and I'm talking about it from someone that sat with David. We planned out the screenplay, and when we're talking specifically about the battle, did a lot of research about accounts of how the battle went down. Obviously, there's a certain amount of artistic license we took with the whole film in terms of story and characters and who was doing what, but the mechanics of the battle and the timing of certain elements, the topography or the landscape was very important to us in terms of, we shot that 2 or 3 hours north of Budapest in a field that, I think when David went on a scout, it was like finally had found a place that suited the description of Agincourt, that the English had the high ground, that the English had the disadvantage in the low ground, that it was flanked on either side by this pine forest, which the landscape became a big part of the battle, and no one had ever really, historically no one had really ever won battles with the downslope disadvantage. The mud was very important. To know that the majority of men that died at Agincourt, it wasn't through blunt force trauma and being pierced by swords, but by being crushed by horses and drowning in the mud. So there's a lot of that battle. I think the majority of that battle is an attempt of trying to not just depict the battle mechanics, but also the feeling of claustrophobia and panic and confusion, and now talking about an actor within that battle, that felt very real to me. And I think that one of the great things about the movie is that battle and the confusion within it, the chaos, and focusing on that more than the insurmountable task that the English had, not overly focusing on that they had dwindling numbers compared to the French. But yes, so there in the battle and across the board, there was a real thorough sense of research about design, landscape, costume, etiquette, hairstyles. I know there's been a lot of talk about hairstyles. David, does that answer the question?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. No, that was pretty comprehensive.
예, 그러면 여기 분 먼저 손 주셨으니까.
저에 대해서 어떤 질문드리겠습니다. 브라이트 넷플릭스 영화 2편째 출연하게 되었는데 영화를 보고 있으니까 브레이트를 능가하는 전투 장면이 굉장히 인상적이었거든요. 그런 거에 잠깐 이제 넷플릭스 모니터로 보면 좀 아깝다는 생각이 드는데 넷플릭스 전문 배우로서 그 점에 대해서 어떻게 생각하는지 좀 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
I think just get really close to the television and make sure there's the smell of popcorn in your room. Look, it's a really good question, and you know, I think the world is changing. I remember when I was young hearing my parents and their friends talking about how terrible it was that the drive-in cinema was probably going to get shut down. And as a 12-year-old kid, I was thinking, who cares? You know, who cares about the drive-in cinema? I don't. I can't drive. And now I think we're hitting a similar zone where, you know, I'm 45. I desperately would mourn the loss of going to the cinema. And yet we have this other thing going on, which is streaming. And there's such a, if I were to draw a line down the middle of the page and write pros and cons, there are so many pros and there are so many cons. I recently got sort of misquoted talking about my film Boy Erased, and that I lamented that it should have been on a streaming platform, which was inaccurate. I was very happy with the choice I made. I had only lamented on the fact that sometimes there are people that need to see a film that can't get to a cinema that's close to them, that's, you know, it's too far away. Of course, streaming brings that movie right to you. I think it's also important that, you know, to mention that David's approach to cinema, you know, we had Adam Arkapour shooting the film. You know, filmmakers can't approach a film and just think, well, it's on a small screen, so we won't worry about the aesthetic. We won't worry about the beautiful imagery. We won't worry about design so much because everything's like compressed. You know, you still treat it like it's a passion, that it has a chance to live on the big screen. And, you know, one interesting thing that someone said to me once recently was like, how many of your favourite films did you ever see on the big screen? A movie will transport you no matter how you watch it. As long as you have good sound and a decent enough image, a great story will just drag you in. I still want to go to the cinema, you know, but I also see some of my favourite films on the small screen. And I'm very happy to work for Netflix, but I also want to keep working for the studios, and I really hope that cinema doesn't diminish or die. It seems like the cinemas are being filled by just, majority of them are big Marvel movies. Really happy about the debate that's happening around The Irishman, because that's the kind of movie you go, that should be like on a big screen. The King should be on a big screen, and we can have our cake and eat it too, if you guys obviously may or may not know that expression, that you can have the best of both worlds.
Can I add one thing to that? Just because I've just have been thinking this recently, and you know, it feels important to say because we are here at Busan, that I have a feeling also that film festivals are going to become more important than they've ever been. You know, we don't know what's happening with theaters, streaming. There's a lot of, everything is in a state of transition. But I think the one thing that is true is that any new piece of screen content wants to have that sense of public event when it launches into the world. And that's what film festivals have always been. I think they are going to become even more important in that sense in the coming years.
예, 그 질문들이 많아서 저도 질문이 하나 있는데 저 하나만 하고 바로 도와드리겠습니다. 이거 너무 많아가지고 저까지 순서가 안 올 것 같아서 그 오늘 그 플랜 B에서 프로듀서 그 대표분 두 분이 오셨는데 특별히 저희 아시아 그 영화인들을 위해서 특강도 준비를 하셨습니다. 그 사실 이제 플랜 B라고 하면 워낙 그 큰 제작사고 그리고 그 굉장히 그 큰 규모의 영화도 만들지만 그 문라이트 같은 그런 독립 영화, 예술 영화도 굉장히 많이 만드신 걸로 알고 있는데 혹시 더 킹은 플랜 B 입장에서 어떤 의미를 좀 가지고 있는지 좀 궁금합니다. 그 디디 가드너 씨나 제레미 클라이너 씨 뭐 아무나 좀 답변 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
A lot. We do what we do because of narrative and because of filmmakers, and because of artists and actors. And we've worked with David before, and we really treasured the experience and would do anything to keep doing it. And we've worked with Timmy before, and we would do anything to keep doing that. And we're working with Joel on something else now, and we would do anything to keep working with him. It's, I think the movie's also eerily prescient about our moment in time, and I care about that. I care about stories that ask about our complicity in the world around us. And, but mostly it's, I guess, constellation building, family building, and that's a real, that feels like a privilege.
I would just add, you know, we try and take on stories that we believe in and stories that might be a little bit perhaps difficult, like they don't quite fit one category. This film is obviously a period epic, but it's also, as Dee Dee alluded to, eerily modern with, you know, two of the great actors working in our moment and about a lot of modern issues. It has in the Battle of Agincourt, you know, I think one of the more thrilling battle action sequences that we've seen, but it's also a film with a really strong dramatic core. And I think we're drawn to stories that that might be challenging to put into one box, but we believe that if you execute those stories with integrity and you get behind artists that are working at the top of their game, that they have a chance to succeed and be seen in a wonderful place like Busan and hopefully around the world too.
예, 다시 한번 저 제레미 클라이너하고 디디 가든하시 저희 아시아 독립 영화인들을 위해서 특별한 시간 준비해 주신 거 감사드리고요. 예, 이제 다음 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 예, 저 뒤에 분이 계속 손 드셨는데.
저는 한국일보의 김표양 기자라고 합니다. 우선 티모시 샬라메 씨께 여쭤보고 싶은데 그 극 중에 왕자가 왕으로 성장해가는 과정이 그 티모시 씨 개인의 그 배우로서의 성장 과정과도 좀 겹쳐지게 좀 느껴지더라고요. 이렇게 고군분투하면서 좀 진정한 왕으로, 진정한 배우로 성장하는 과정이 겹쳐지는데 혹시 연기를 하면서 그 배역에 가장 깊이 공감했던 지점이 어디 있는지 그게 듣고 싶고요. 그 조엘 씨께는 그 각본도 직접 쓰셨는데 그 헨리 5세를 글로 쓰시면서 혹시 티모시 씨를 상상하면서 좀 쓰신지는 않았는지 또 궁금하고 또 함께 연기하시면서 어떤 점 호흡이 좋았는지 듣고 싶습니다.
Well, I'll let Joel answer that question too, but I think when they wrote the script, I was like 4 years old or something, so it would have really been like Baby King or something, but that might be wrong though, so. But I don't know if there's something I immediately relate to. Certainly, I'm not from any sort of royal family, and I think the thing I could strongly relate to perhaps is maybe there's like the visual silhouettes you have in the movie of, you know, how do I say this? Even right now, it's like a room full of adults, and I'm the young person here. So I guess there's a relatability to that it can feel, you know, some version of not normal to be young and dealing with adults in a professional manner and trying to make reasoned decisions. But you know, besides that, the 15th century playing a king, I can't relate to much of that.
Timmy is a horrible person. But please put in brackets, that was an ironic statement. If David and I actually started writing a screenplay together in 2013, I think it was. So yeah, Timothy we would have had to go and knock on his 7th grade classroom and ask if we could borrow him for a minute. And he would have been way too young, which is great. You know, as David mentioned, it's really lucky for us that the film happened when it happened, because we had a chance to work with him, and we had a chance to be showing that film with him wearing the crown. What I'll say about, actually it's a very poignant quote, even though, you know, it's ironic that we separated completely from Shakespeare, but, you know, it is a great quote of Shakespeare's that heavy is the head that wears the crown. And it's really interesting from the outside watching Timothy approach life, shifting in a very dramatic way for himself in terms of, you know, most of us human beings walk through life, and the people that care to show us attention are the people that are friends or family or loved ones or somebody that might take an interest in you on the street. To be so young and to have so many eyes on you and so much attention and so many people identifying with you and investing in you there's a certain weight and heaviness that carries, and a responsibility in a world of social media. So many things to talk about there that you know, you put yourself in a throne of other sorts, or people put you there, and people endow you with being the king. But he handles it very well, and it's great to be on set with somebody who is popular by other people's choice and a professional by his own acumen. I said that so I'd get a hug from Timmy.
예, 지금 손 대신 앞에 분.
네, 안녕하세요. 티모시 샬라메에게 질문 드리려고 하는데요. 영화를 찍으면서 가장 힘들었거나 아니면 기억에 남는 씬이 무엇이었는지 궁금하고요. 그리고 미국인으로서 영국 발음이라던가 영국인을 이렇게 연기하는 게 어떤 부분이 어려웠고 그다음에 어떻게 극복했는지가 궁금합니다. 네.
So to answer the second question first, there's a brilliant man in England. His name is Neil Swain. He's a dialect coach. He works with a lot of American actors when they go over the pond and helps them achieve a British accent. So I worked very, very diligently with him and worked about a month and a half, 2 months before the movie started in intensity with him. But before that, I was watching the reference movies and the recordings I could find online that seemed in the voice of the character. And the scene that was most difficult, I don't know, that the Battle of Agincourt, I had just never been in anything like that in my life before, let alone in real life, let alone in a movie. And I was grateful to David that the idea isn't that Hal goes into battle and is dominant and is a strong warrior. The idea is that Hal goes into a battle and the act of him going into battle is the act of valiance and of honor, and the fact that he shows up for his army, as opposed to the Dauphin of France, who comes in with his personal guard and comes in midway through the battle. So I think that was perhaps the most daunting scene to shoot, but you know, Joel alluded earlier to his other film, Boy Erased, that he was editing while we were shooting the movie, and he had to go to New York, I think, and he had to shoot out his battle sequences first. So I remember going to set and watching all this battle stuff happen. I watched a take where Joel was in the middle of a battle, and afterwards he relished it. He had a big smile on his face. He was having a great time. He had a lot of fun. And I just figured when it's my time to do that, I'll lean into it, enjoy it. I guess that's like half the lessons of acting, or maybe of life. That's circumstances that are scary, the circumstances that throw you, are best resolved by leaning into it and leaning into the surreality of it and trying to meet it halfway.
예, 다음 질문 아까 계속.
네, 저는 티모시 샬라메 배우와 감독님께 질문 드리겠는데요. 아까 방금 그 전투씬을 말씀하셨는데 그 액션을 얼마나 연습하셨는지 궁금하고 검투하는 장면은 좀 어떠셨는지 궁금하고요. 감독님께는 지금 여기 나와 있진 오시진 않았지만 로버트 패틴슨 씨 연기가 굉장히 인상적이었거든요. 그래서 근데 프랑스 왕자인데 이제 영어를 구사하는 프랑스 배우를 뽑지 않으신 이유가 특별히 있는지 궁금하고요. 아니면 로버트 패틴슨만의 뭔가 매력이 있기 때문에 캐스팅하신 건지 궁금합니다.
So for the fight sequences, there's two main fights that Hal partakes in the movie. One is a duel with Hotspur, and the other is the wars. Well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but there's also the Battle of Agincourt. And the truth is, we had rehearsed for both battles different sequences that maybe I rehearsed for about 3 weeks. And when we presented these scenes to David, it's not what he wanted for the movie. I don't want to speak for David, but it was something that was too choreographed, maybe too Jedi, too lightsabery, and he wanted it to be more messy in the mud. Again, perhaps in a big studio version of this film, it's about the action and the muscles and the swords, and this was more about the mess and the mud. For the real Battle of Agincourt, more people died from drowning in the mud and from the human crush than they did from swords or blunt trauma. And so we rearranged those fights, and on the day, there was a general choreography, but because he did want it to be messy, it was a little bit all over the place too, and a little bit just whatever happened in the take, whatever happened when it was filming is what would be in the movie.
Like as with Timmy, I cast Rob in the movie because he's really good. I worked with Rob on my second movie, The Rover. I loved working with him. I love the boldness of the decisions that he makes, both in the roles that he takes and in creating the characters that he plays. And I knew that this character needed to be fun. It needed to be wild. And I had a very strong feeling that that Rob would have fun and make bold decisions and make the character larger than life. And I didn't cast it, I didn't really think about whether or not I am very firmly of the belief that when done sensitively, when political considerations are taken into account, that the joy of being an actor is becoming somebody that you are not. And so I love the fact that this movie has an Englishman playing a Frenchman. It has an Australian playing an Englishman. It has a kid from New York playing Henry V. I love that, and I hope that actors love that too. You get to transform, and I think that's probably what is most enjoyable about acting.
예, 저희가 이제 시간 관계상 거의 맞춰야 될 건데, 지금 죄송한데 저 하나만 더, 제가 얘기를 들었는데 조엘 에저튼 씨가 지금 살인의 추억 봉준호 감독님 큰 팬이라고 그러시는데요. 얼마 전 그 사건 해결된 것까지도 지금 알고 계신다고 그래서 어떻게 그렇게 잘 아시는지 개인적으로 질문 한번 부탁드리겠습니다.
Yes. The ending of that movie is so excellent. I'm a big fan of movies that end on, ambiguity. And when Song looks into the camera, it can be taken many different ways. But the fact that he will live forever not knowing is one of the great endings of a movie ever. I rewatched the movie. This is really bizarre. Yesterday I was watching The Host on the plane because I saw it when it first came out in 2003. 2 weeks ago, because I'm making a movie about a true crime story in Australia next year, I was watching Memories of a Murder, and so I rewatched the movie 2 weeks ago. It was the night before the news broke that DNA testing had matched the murderer to 3 crimes, and now I believe that he's admitted to the remaining 14 or the remaining 11. Yes, I do know, and it's kind of extraordinary, but it doesn't change how incredible the ambiguity of the end of that movie is. And of course, you know, I think most of us or some of us have seen Parasite, and he just keeps upping the game for everybody. Parasite is my favourite movie this year, apart from The King.
예, 그러면 이제 시간 관계상 저희 이제 그 질문 Q&A는 이 정도로 마치기로 하고요. 죄송합니다. 그 지금 여기 게스트분들 잠깐 그 옷 정리하고 메이크업 때문에 한 3분 정도 걸린다고 하거든요. 그리고 바로 포토타임 저희 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 기자회견 많이 와주셔서 다시 한번 감사드리겠습니다. 고맙습니다.